There are design moments that define an era, and for 50 years, the Kips Bay Decorator Show House has set the tone for what's next. Annually, the show house brings together the industry's most creative minds, transforming homes into masterpieces, all while raising funds for the Kips Bay Boys and Girls Club, an organization that has changed the lives of thousands of children and their families. This year marks a huge milestone with the release of Iconic Rooms, Kips Bay New York Decorator Show House at 50, a book that celebrates the spaces, designers, and trends that have shaped the past 5 decades. Today, I am thrilled to welcome Nazira Handal, who's at the heart of making this all happen. The Director of Special Events and Corporate Partnerships for the Kips Bay Boys and Girls Club, she is taking us behind the scenes, not only of this incredible book, but of Kips Bay's history, both the organization and the Decorator Show House. This is a conversation not to be missed. Let's dive in. Welcome to Grandma's Silver, where tradition meets today. I'm Allie, your host of the Grandma's Silver podcast and founder of the Grand Millennial Lifestyle. Here, we blend aesthetics with nostalgia, engaging in conversations with lifestyle brands, designers, and more to rediscover the timeless charm of the past. Join me as we journey from home to heart, illuminating the past and polishing the present with the gleam of Grandma's Silver. Well, Nazira, thank you for coming onto the podcast today. I'd want to just turn this to you for a second so that you can introduce yourself, tell people what your role is, and we can go from there.
I'm Nazira Handal. I'm the Director of Special Events and Corporate Partnerships here at the Kips Bay Boys and Girls Club. I oversee all the fundraising events, not only for Show House, but other events that we do to raise money for the charity.
Now, one of the things that I love about Kips Bay is that it does have this dual mission. So could you talk a little bit, and you let me know your level of comfort here, but kind of how the show house started, or how did that, because obviously the nonprofit existed first, right?
Correct. So the Kips Bay Boys and Girls Club, we have been serving children for 108 years. We started in the Kips Bay neighborhood of New York City, and then we outgrew our space. Then we moved to the Bronx. So we've been in the Bronx for over 60 years, now serving 11,000 children in 10 different locations. It's more than an after-school program. It's a safe haven for children. It's a place where parents, which are usually a single-parent home, feel safe and that their kids are being well taken care of. We give them not only the opportunities to succeed, but also they get a fresh meal. Most of the time, this is the only hot meal those kids receive. They do their homework, then they can participate in other activities, performing arts. We have the only ice rink in the Bronx. There's sports. There's a lot of activities that they can partake that they would not have this opportunity if it wouldn't be for the Kips Bay Boys and Girls Club.
Wow. How did you get involved? Have you been involved in this work before?
So I went to school. I have a master's in public administration with the emphasis in nonprofit. So I always knew that my quote unquote calling in life was to help others. I come from Honduras, where my family has always been very philanthropic. And I guess I grew up with that desire to help. When I finished my master's degrees here in Georgia Southern University, we moved to New York with my husband New Jersey. I got a job at El Museo del Barrio, which is the only Latin American museum of the city of New York, doing events and individual giving. And while it did open an amazing doors, I knew that I wanted to, if I was going to be a nonprofit, I wanted to be in a nonprofit that actually I felt that I was changing lives of children. 14 years later, here I am. I'm obsessed with our mission. I think what we do for our children and the opportunities and the life we're changing, not only for them, but for their entire family, is the reason why I do what I do.
Amazing. You might have already woven it into a question I asked earlier, but what is the organization's tagline mission?
So we're an after-school program. but we are more than that. Like I said, it's even we have programs of social awareness, especially after the pandemic. We have people on site to help those children if they need to talk to somebody. We have specialists. We even had a dental program at one point. We have college readiness. We actually employ over 1,500 youngsters in the summer and place them in different businesses and different paths of life, from a bank to office, a construction site, even with some of the designers. So there is much more than just an after school program.
Wow. One of the exciting conversations we're talking about today is that there is a big milestone anniversary coming up. So Kips Bay, the show house, is turning 50.
Yes. Well, it should have been turning 53 years ago, but unfortunately, because of the pandemic, we had a 3-year hiatus. But this year is our official 50th anniversary. This started like a modest fundraiser and to become the most prestigious design event of the country. Yeah. And not only because it's ours, but this is the Oscar of the show houses in the country. And this started as a fundraiser from a group of ladies that wanted to do something different to raise money for the Boys and Girls Club back in 1973. So they got their own interior designers and they all brought them together. And this is where the show house concept became. And here we are 50 years later, 3 show houses later, expanding through the different parts of the country.
I don't know if you can speak to, not because we'll be mostly talking about, and just so listeners know, we're really talking about New York today. Are you able to speak a little bit, though, to how that all branched out? Because, of course, I know there's a Palm Beach. If I'm not mistaken, is it Dallas?
Yes.
How did those branches come to be?
We had been doing New York for, I think at that point was 45 years. Honestly, is one of those doors that opened and we found the opportunity and took it. There was a lot of synergy between our constituencies because, before the pandemic, you had the snowbirds that would go in the winter to Palm Beach. And there was a show house that had been running for 30 years in Palm Beach, run by the Red Cross. That show house closed its doors. A good friend of the organization by the name of Steven Stolman gave us a call and he's like, hey, there's an opening and a need for a show house in Palm Beach. We jumped on board in 2017 and just closed the doors of our 8th show house and the most successful show house in terms of visitors that we've ever had.
Wow. And then how about Dallas?
So again, we felt that we had the bandwidth to keep on expanding. And we started going through cities, and then Dallas just popped up. And I went to visit Dallas for the first time before really making the decision. And I said, well, if it's gonna feel right, it's gonna feel right from the first minute. And my first meeting was at 10 p.m. with Holly Moore, who is the owner and CEO of Paper City. And from that moment, I knew Dallas was it.
Over the decades, I mean, like you said, it's sort of, I think you compared it to the Oscars, right, of decorator show houses, which I would agree. I think it's like the one. Are there like defining moments in the design industry that you think have made it over because it's lasted decades now? So why is it at its peak?
I think honestly, now that it's just not in person, does have a global online presence between virtual tours, social media, press coverage, and the fact that the show houses help to launch and solidify careers of the top designers of the country makes it a lot stronger. We do tend to have those big names, but we also, one of our missions is to give the opportunity to those upcoming designers and give them the tools to get out there. And I think that this also has helped. Now that we are in 3 different cities, we do see that people travel. When we see the ticket report of where people are purchasing tickets in all the 3 show houses, you see that there is a lot of traveling. It's not that we're only serving Florida and Palm Beach, or that we're only serving the tri-state area in New York, or in Dallas, we're not only serving Texas. People are traveling to support us and to support the mission. And when you receive that book at the beginning of your tour, we tell your story and we give you stats, and we hope that people do immerse themselves and really read and understand that there is much more to the show house than the beauty.
Now, you also said something which was really fun, which was that people are traveling to attend the show houses. I'm also seeing that designers are traveling. Designers are coming from all over to participate in the various locations, some of the top designers in the world. So have you heard feedback of even why sometimes people come back for another location?
All three locations are very different. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that it's giving them the opportunity to be bold and actually this is the first time, remember, that a designer is not having a client.
Right.
They're themselves are their own client. So they're able to express really their ideas, their designs, and they're able to be as bold. We give them, and I think that this is one of the reasons of our success. I think we're the only show house that gives no parameters.
Okay, that was one of the questions I had because I was curious. You see people come in, of course, each location, like the Palm Beach, I couldn't go down this year, but the Palm Beach images that I saw, of course, Palm Beach is kind of the impetus for people's inspiration, right? It's very coastal looking. It's each location, I think, has its own flair, but I was curious about on the back end what you all are sharing with designers because there is also a cohesion even though they have all this creative free reign. I think it all works together and I didn't know how that came to be.
I think it's just because a lot of them are do following trends, and that's where you find the cohesion. But
Hmm.
as an organization, yes, of course, if you're assigned a kitchen, you have to make a kitchen. But
Right.
even if you're assigned a bedroom and you want to do it a sitting room or you want to make it a bar, we give you no parameters.
Wow. Okay.
There's no color story. Pretty much anything that they can do, we let them have that creative freedom so that they can push boundaries without a client restriction.
How are they getting their spaces? Are you assigning those?
Yeah, so we assign the spaces. So the first process is designers apply via our website. We have in each city different committees that we go over their submissions. We go over their website. We really dig into their work because for us the priority is the quality of design. And then once we have the list of designers, we assign them the room. So the time is a lottery process. Of course, we're not going to put a landscaper into a kitchen, but it's mostly a lottery process of what room you're going to get.
Okay. And then how much time on average are they given from conceptualization and finding out what space they have to opening day?
It's a very tight timeline, probably at most 12 weeks. And like
Okay.
I said, as short as 6.
Okay.
Unfortunately, it is all based on when we find a location that determines how long they have to do because we have set months of when we do our show houses in Dallas, Palm Beach, and New York. It's really based on when we get the location, how many weeks they have.
I was going to bring this up later, but we can talk about it now because I think it's a natural segue. The process of finding the property in general, what does the back end of that look like? Because I think I'm interested in hearing that. I'm sure listeners are as well.
The hardest part of my job.
I'm sure.
Fundraising and getting designers and everything is just comes easily just because the brand is so strong. But finding the house, not everybody is willing to give up their house, especially if it's in the market because everybody thinks they're going to sell and give up their house at no cost for 5 months. Because it's
Yeah.
not only the 3 or 4 weeks that we're open, it's pre-construction and post-construction. So usually what we do is reach out to all the realtors that do have houses in the market. Based on that, they go to the owners and we have a discussion of what their benefits are and our obligations to them and what they get in return.
Okay.
So it's a lot what they get is the visibility, especially that if it's in the market of
Mhm.
people, a potential buyer coming in. And then the upgrades of getting a new kitchen, new flooring, new bathrooms, wall coverings, because those are the things that the owners get to keep.
I was just about to ask that, and I feel like it probably depends on the homeowner, but that surely would raise your property value.
In New York, we have been extremely successful on being able to sell those properties. Prime example of 2018, David Koch, rest in peace, walked in with his wife and put an offer on the house, and the house was in the market for $49 million.
Wow.
And they said to the realtors, like, we just came out of Kips Bay, I'm interested in purchasing the house. We do have a success history on the houses being sold.
Okay.
With that being said, unfortunately, this is our 50th and 2 days short of us having the initial meeting with the designers, the lease fell through. So right now we're back in square one. Sadly, and it would have been sad in every other year because, of course, and budgeted for the show house. But being our 50th, it was a harder pill to swallow that we had to push New York to for the fall.
For anybody listening, of course, we want to help get the word out so that we can help with the search that's actively now underway. So what makes a property Kips Bay worthy? Like, what are you looking for?
Its location is a key. Our thing has always been the Upper East Side. We've been in the West Side twice, but the size of the house is key. We're looking for a house that is over 10,000 square feet, that we can accommodate as many designers as possible with an open and flexible floor plan. Architectural significance and character, we look for it because that only enhances the work that designers can put into it. The high ceilings, the intricate moldings, the large windows, those are the things that we always look in the house for it to have a unique style. And of course, it has to be a townhouse.
Kind of going off of this again, you touched on this is a big year. And so there's a lot going into finding the right property. You have designers on board, but there is also a book that we want to make sure we're talking about today. So it is, and correct me if I'm wrong, I wrote it down, Iconic Rooms, Kips Bay, New York, Decorator Show House at 50.
Yes, and it was a very exciting project. We could have done it without Lux. It was one of those things that maybe we had been talking about it for a couple of years, and then 50 just came out of the blue. How we pulled it off, and actually how Lux pull it off, is beyond me. So it is the best of the last 50 years. And the book is divided by the different decades, and
Okay.
you can really enjoy how the show house itself has changed throughout the years of being a little bit more traditional to being more bold.
New York, especially, and maybe it just speaks to the location and the energy, but I do find that the spaces, you get a little bit of that tradition, but it pushes the envelope, I think, more than any other location. Some of those rooms. Are there any memorable spaces that you in particular or like personal favorite rooms that are featured in the book that you're really glad are in there?
So many, so many that I can't not pick, and it wouldn't be fair for the designers. But one that comes to mind, and I think it comes to mind for everybody, just because it was such a beautiful space. I've never seen so much coverage in a magazine in one room. It was the 2016 living room by Alice Parker Cities. I think that has been the one image that throughout the years keeps popping. Then you have the bold staircase from Bygoff, and they're so different from one another. But
Right.
there's those special moments because I think designers do push their limit and they go bold. You go bold or you go home. It's the opportunity for them to shine
Yeah.
and show what exactly that they can bring to the table to any client that is possibly there.
Do they need to? I'm kind of going backwards here for 1 second. We'll come back to the book in a minute, but I know that you're not providing any specific parameters for them outside of this is your space and, maybe like because there is architectural details or things in historic properties that there are rules around that, maybe they have some of that, but do they need to present their concepts to you in advance or do they just get to run with it and then like keep you updated?
We actually don't ask them so that we don't gear them in another direction and they have full range of whatever they want to do. But we do have the bathrooms and the kitchens. They need to be pre-approved by the owner. So
Mm,
the designer has to give us a presentation like they would give it to any client with the drawings, materials, colors, because those are the spaces that stay in the house 100%.
okay.
The other spaces, like if you have wallpaper and the owner doesn't like it, the designer knows that as per their contract, it has to go back to the original space. But how can you bring back a kitchen or how can you bring back a bathroom? So those do get pre-approved. Everything else, we get surprised nowadays just because we ask them to submit renderings for press purposes. We do see the concept, but that's about it.
What about install days? Because I see the behind the scenes, I follow along. So the install days, like how are you coordinating that, not knowing what people are, or to a certain degree, not knowing what they're working on or what their own requirements are?
One thing that I have learned through the years is that everybody works at a completely different pace. We have designers that as soon as they can, because obviously they have to submit certificate of insurance and they have to submit their deposits and their paperwork. But as soon as they can, they start that same day. And then I have designers that we have 3 weeks before we move in, and they're just starting to see the space, doing the space. And a lot of it is because a lot of the work is done behind the scenes. If
Okay.
you have a paneled room and all those elements like that that are just going to be literally installed, you don't see progress. And I believe me, I get on the phone and I'm like, what's going on? I'm like, why haven't you started? And they're like, calm down, everything, we're still on schedule. And I'm like, what kind of schedule if the room is still a blank canvas? But a lot of things happen behind the scenes. In terms of the moving, we do give designers a window. We do a moving date of furniture for 3 days. And each designer, based on the location of the room, they are assigned a specific date and time when they can move in the furniture.
Okay. That makes sense. See, on the back end, the logistics, I've just always been curious. Going back to the book, because I didn't mean to veer totally off track, but I know you mentioned it's broken up by decade. One of the things that I personally enjoy the story behind all of that.
So the book is mainly about the stunning photography, the
Okay.
quality of the images, the breathtaking spaces. There is 8 essays by the most iconic designers of the country and the designers that are very well involved on the organization. We have more than a handful of interior designers that actually serve on the board of the Kips Bay Boys and Girls Club.
Okay.
So you'll hear essays from them. This is at the coffee table book that is honestly the most beautiful rooms that you're ever gonna see in one book. So we're extremely excited. For us, it was literally about capturing those memorable rooms, those iconic designers, how the trends have been evolving, and just I think a celebration of what the show house has done in the last 50 years.
Have you found it interesting? Because I know earlier too, you said a lot of the cohesion that it naturally exists is because designers push the envelope and they are very creative, and many designers don't necessarily latch on to trends, but there are, of course, things that are trendy. Have you noticed as you're panning through any particular decade that you're able to call certain trends out that existed at different times?
It's color. When you go in from the earlier decades to now, I think it's become from a more traditional rooms to really bold aesthetics. And it's interesting how to see how earlier on you have so much wallpaper, and then there was a time that you didn't have that much wallpaper. And then you in the last couple of years, I think Dallas of 2024, I don't think there was one single space in the entire house that had no wallpaper.
I personally love the wallpaper coming
Yeah,
back.
and ceilings have become the fifth wall.
That's interesting that you bring that up because that's one of those things that I think, as someone who studies a lot of designers' work, they work for their clients, but they have kind of their own, calling cards, if you will, or ways they make their own statement. But I would say that I often, not never, but rarely do I pay attention to the ceilings as much as when I see the Kips Bay show house photos. They really do pull out all the stops when it comes. I mean, I've seen tenting, I might have even seen like wallpaper on ceilings
Yeah.
before. It's so fun. And it's like, as an average person, you don't always think to do that.
Yeah, that fifth wall, and I think it's in the last 5 years that I've been seeing, like you said, the tenting, the wallpapering, the trellis, and the ceilings. That fifth wall has become a big trend in our show houses.
I want to kind of come back a minute to the philanthropic side of all of this, because of course that really drives all of this in general. So beyond design, I think you said it was 11,000 plus children that
Yes.
the organization has impacted. So in what ways does the show house contribute to that success?
Let me back a little bit because the show house, depending on the city, we
Mhm.
also help local charities.
Oh, okay.
So in Palm Beach, since day one, we have partnered with the Palm Beach Boys and Girls Club. So together, just in that area, we serve over 40,000 children.
Wow.
We are a true believer that, of course, we're gonna raise money and for Kips Bay for our programs, but we're true believers that as long as we're helping, the money needs to also stay locally. And then in Dallas, we partner with two different charities, Crystal Charity Ball and A Dwell with Dignity, which again, proceeds of the show house also stay and help those families in Dallas. Everybody that works at the show house is employed by the Kips Bay Boys and Girls Club. We don't pay somebody to produce the show house or show us. We are employed by the organization, and every single dollar that is made goes back to the show house. And the great part of something like the show house is that it goes to our general budget. It's not tied to, oh, it's going to in this program or this is going to this grant. This is literally money that comes in that helps us keep the building open and be able to provide the programs that we do. Kips Bay Boys and Girls Club is a flagship of the Boys and Girls Club of America. So a lot of the programs, when the Boys and Girls Club of America roll it out, they would roll it out at Kips Bay just because the club is so strong. I think the staff that actually does programming and is there with the children are just amazing. And a lot of them, it is because they were one day a member of the Boys and Girls Club.
Wow. So you
Our
see
executive director is a perfect, yes. So our executive director is a prime example and a walking advertisement of how you can change somebody's life. He was a member of the Boys and Girls Club, went into playing professional baseball, going back to working for the Boys and Girls Club of America, and then being our executive director of the club where he started now for 27 years.
Wow. That's amazing.
So it is definitely full circle. And this tells you the impact that we do have on those children that they want to give back.
Of course, we'll encourage people to attend the show houses as an easy, inspiring way to contribute to the success of the organization's mission. But for those who might not be able to get out and visit the show houses in person, are there ways that listeners can still support Kips Bay?
Absolutely. So I said there's various events that we run for the charity, but you can always go to our website at the Kips Bay Boys and Girls Club and donate. We have even companies that donate also their time and send their employees there to help out the children if we need volunteers, etc. But definitely we do encourage guests to donate through the website. It takes $770 to be able to help one children throughout the year and provide them with all the necessary tools, and again provide them with food and after school help, exposing them to tutoring, college preparedness, career training, music, dance, theater, basketball, swimming, mentorship programs. So every dollar counts.
Make sure that I put those sorts of links in our show notes to make it easily accessible for everybody. And then if you're following along on Instagram, we'll make sure to post all of that as well. I did want to ask before we get ready to close out in a few minutes, what excites you the most about this 50th year, quote unquote, even though you've hit 50, but is there anything that you just feel, because of course, you know, you're with this organization at a really pivotal time. So is there anything that you feel particularly excited about in this space as far as the show house?
So we do have a list of designers because again, we were supposed to start last week. Seeing the variety of designers that are going to be part of the show, from the designers that started their career decades ago at Kips Bay to some of them that have been more of the upcoming designers. So I think that the difference of designers is what's going to make the show house so much special, because you're going to see more traditional designers, and then again, some of them that hit their careers not that long ago. Kips Bay has become a design community, and once you are a Kips Bay designer, you become part of our family. And it's amazing how designers it's a friendship bond. It's more of a fraternity. It starts, like I said, especially installation, everybody's nerves are all over the place, but everybody's going through it together. And they really rely on each other, and that bond will never break. And you see designers traveling as a group to go see Palm Beach or to go to Dallas. Right now, when we do the President's Dinner, which is coming up on April 3rd, you see the different years buying a table together. So I think that that's one of the most amazing. And if you talk to the designers, that's one of the biggest takes that they take from doing the show house, is that community and that friendship bond that is going to be there forever.
It also speaks to, as someone, I formerly was an event planner, and it becomes not that you don't maintain your passion for your creative industry, but I think sometimes it can get a little rote. I think it's really impressive that folks from all levels who've been doing this for 40 years or 4 years can come in and like challenge themselves. And you mentioned kind of those nerves. There's good anxiety, I think, about it being a new experience. So I think that's really special that it offers even someone who's been in this forever and who is like the most seasoned interior designer the opportunity to kind of experience those butterflies again in their creative industry.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, all the show houses are completely different. Either the house is different, the energy is different. Some houses are easier than others. Some houses are very run down and designers have to put a lot more. And some of them are like, okay, lucky me that I got an easy room. Even if you do, there's a lot of repeating designers. Designers cannot repeat in 3 years in the same city or 2 years within another city, but even their experiences are completely different, which makes it exciting. The 50th anniversary is going to be my 25th show house. The excitement is still there, just because I have not felt like I really feel like I have a new job every show house in every city.
That's
because
really a big deal.
It's a completely different experience with, depending on the group of designers, depending on the house. It's a completely different and special experience. I always tell them, I'm like, I think you're my favorite group, but they all are my favorite group, just because the bonds that you create with them. And look, it's stressful. If for those that are looking to be a designer at the Kips Bay Show House, it's not an easy task, but it is also what could be building your career and could take you to another level.
Absolutely. Well, and like you said, I mean, the organization has positioned itself as, I think we compared it now to the Oscars. Like it's the premier decorator show house, at least in the United States, maybe the world. It has such a recognizable name. Everybody wants to be a part of it. Everybody wants to see it. It's incredible the legacy that it's now leaving. And I think it's so special that now you have this book that's connected. It's an accomplishment to have a legacy as storied as a 50-year history that you can put a book together. It's historic kind of for the organization, and to be able to commemorate that.
Yeah, I think that the final result is always a breathtaking of talent, craftsmanship, innovation, and a true celebration of design at its highest. I'm extremely proud to be part of the show house, and hopefully on the next 50 years of Kips Bay. So
thank you so much for taking the time to be here today. We will keep our eyes peeled for the next New York show house location. I will make sure, like I said, to share links to Kips Bay, to the show house, to the nonprofit, to the book, social media links. Nazira, thank you so much for taking the time to be here and for sharing the legacy of Kips Bay with me and my audience.
No, thank you for having us, and you made this very easy.
Oh, I'm glad.